Faisal Chowdhury. Mr Kerr.
Well, Presiding Officer, there's not going to be a lot of disagreement in the Chamber about the value of our natural endowment in Scotland. And certainly, as a Scottish Conservative, I believe in conserving and indeed restoring nature. And I also recognise and agree that there is a correlation between our happiness and our mental health and the environment in which we're living, especially the natural environment. And therefore, I think there's a lot of common grounds. It was very disappointing, but not surprising, to hear Mark Ruskell's last intervention on Andrew Nicholl, where somehow or other we managed to get Brexit into this and another go at the UK government. But it's worth saying that this Scottish government, this SNP Scottish Green government, is doing an appalling job at delivering against its own ambitious plans in terms of Scotland's nature. And I think the problem we've got in Scotland, frankly, is that a lot of good things do happen, but they get lost because of the emphasis, particularly from the Scottish Greens, around more controversial aspects of nature restoration. And I wish to specifically mention rewilding, because while absolutely we should be focused on nature restoration, it is important that we bring people along with us in respect to this very important aspect of the stewardship responsibilities we have for Scotland's natural endowment. But rewilding, I'm afraid, is problematic, because what we are effectively seeing happen before our very eyes in Scotland is a new wave of clearances, where vast tracts of our countryside, where people have been living, are being vacated because there is no space for people with rewilding. Yes, of course.
Mark Ruskell.
Point. I mean, it's very disappointing to hear Mr Kerr invoke the clearances. Is he honestly saying that rewilding projects that are brought forward by communities, many of whom have applied successfully to Nature Restoration Fund, should be stopped? Is that what he is saying? That he doesn't support communities doing the rewilding, doing this work?
Stephen Kerr.
I'm against faceless organisations, usually with headquarters outside of this country, that are buying up tracts of land and then basically neglecting it. And in the course of doing so, you see clearances. You see people being taken out of those areas of our country, because if you have rewilding on the scale that is happening in many parts of our country, what you have is you basically see jobs going, communities going, all the social infrastructure going. It is a reckless piece of environmental vandalism. And there, of course I will.
John Swinney.
I'm grateful to Mr Kerr for giving way. I wonder if you could name an example of an area he's concerned about.
Stephen Kerr.
Well, there are many areas that I'm concerned about, and I'm sure I can more than happy talk to John Swinney subsequent to this debate about areas of interest that we may share as mutual interest. But can I just say that it's important that we listen to Scotland's farmers? That's the point I wish to make in my speech. I wish us to acknowledge that there are genuine concerns that are held by Scotland's farmers. There was a recent meeting between the Cabinet Secretary for Rural Affairs and a group of farmers sponsored by NFUS, where one farmer was greeted with applause when he highlighted the fact that there were grave concerns about the nature of rewilding as it impacted their businesses. The quote that I have here from the article that I'm referring to from the Courier last Saturday is that a farmer called Andrew Steele said species such as golden eagles and beavers were all eradicated for a reason, because they are vermin to farmers. In my opinion, the white elephant in the room today is that the SNP went into coalition with the Green Party to run the country. And how can you actually run the country with statements? I will if I have time. I think
briefly,
this will be the last time.
Well, I appreciate the members being generous with his time, but will he also reflect on the fact that there are farmers who have applied to the Nature Restoration Fund for species reintroduction, for riparian planting, because it benefits their farms and it benefits the local community? Will he acknowledge that there are farmers who support this agenda and are actually financially benefiting from it?
Look, if Mark Ruskell were to listen rather than think about how he can next make an intervention, you'd hear me say that I generally support nature restoration, but I am raising genuine concerns that are being raised by Scotland's farmers. and they deserve to be listened to. And they deserve to be listened to, and they also need to be worked with. You cannot work against the grain of opinion. And I specifically want to mention the issues surrounding beavers, because that's also been highlighted by the by NFUS, particularly in relation to the recent flooding. Martin Kennedy has had something to say about that. Let me just conclude with this quote, if I might, Deputy Presiding Officer. We need the Scottish Government and NatureScot to recognise that in some instances the scale of damage, that's flood damage, was exacerbated by growing beaver activity, burrowing into and significantly weakening long-established flood banks. Now, there's a whole bunch more that I could quote from. But the point is, we need to work with those who are currently the stewards of the land. We need to trust them and work with them and not against them, as they currently feel threatened by the agenda of the Butte House Agreement.
Thank you.